Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is your man, Big B, Brian Hanley, and welcome to Steelers Almighty. We appreciate you guys showing up and showing out like you guys always do, man. We got a really good show for you guys today, man. First off, we're talking about the offensive line. I've made reference to this on several different lives, man. We are talking about the offensive line and how that is going to be the key to the Pittsburgh Steelers season. Secondly, we're talking about Art Rooney. Is Art Rooney failing the Pittsburgh Steelers? There's a lot of people out there. You know how I've been on Art Rooney's head. I'm not going to stop getting off of it because I think he's more involved. We'll talk about that. And then next, we've got our man CJ. I talked to you guys about having our man come in and do an interview about quarterbacks, breaking down the draft, quarterbacks, and also the Steelers situation, who would be the best fit. So we got that for you guys. And then last but not least, we got another mock draft, but this one's a little different. This one is literally the best player available. We didn't choose it by position. We didn't say Steeler needs. We just said, who is the guy at the top, the best player available in each round that the Pittsburgh Steelers are picking in? And that's who we took in this mock draft. So that one should be a lot of fun. So make sure you guys stick around for that mock draft. You guys may or may not like it. I think it's a good one, actually. One of the better ones that I've seen out there. Again, man, thank you guys for everything you guys do, all the support that you have given us. Look, you can find us, obviously, weekly at youtube.com/Steelers Almighty. Social media platforms, anywhere that you find Steelers Almighty, we're on social media there. And if you prefer the audio version, anywhere that you get your podcast, you can find Steelers Almighty. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, continue to get in those comments section. Always hit the notification bell so you know exactly when Steelers Almighty content comes out. Without further ado, let's get into this, people. So, first things first, offensive line, the key to the season. You know, I know quarterback is absolutely important. Don't get me wrong. It is important. But to me, the key to the season is going to be the offensive line. Is it going to be better than last year? We got to start off, obviously, with Broderick. Broderick must play at the very least like an average offensive tackle. He didn't do that last year at right tackle. He played below average standards. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So that's first off. Broderick has to be a better version of what he was last year. I'm not saying he's got to be an all-pro level. I'm just saying that Broderick Jones has to play at least, at a minimum, an average NFL tackle. If he does that, then that's better play than what we got last year out of Dan Moore Jr., in my humble opinion. Moving on, Mason McCormick. Look, he's got to take a step forward. The one thing, and I've said it over and over and over again about him, you can't teach his enthusiasm. You can't teach his motor. Those are things that you can't teach people. You can teach technique, and we saw it last year. His technique was awful. Now, I don't necessarily blame him because he wasn't supposed to be playing last year. Last year was supposed to be a learning season for Mason McCormick. You know, James Daniels was there. He was supposed to start all year, even though the Steelers didn't plan to re-sign him. He was supposed to play all year. End up getting hurt early on in the season against the Colts. McCormick's thrust into action. And for all intents and purposes, I didn't think he was awful. His technique was awful, but his play wasn't. Now, it was spotty. Don't get me wrong. It was up and down, but he's got to take a step forward for the Steelers to be better. Okay. Year two, from year one, all that experience that he learned, he's got to take a big step forward this year. Again, I'm not saying guys have to play at all pro levels. They just have to be better than what they were the year before. McCormick is no different. As far as Fautanu, got to be healthy. Look, we saw what he could do in the Denver game, but he's got to stay healthy. It's a concern. You know, we don't want to talk about it being a concern, but it is. It was a concern coming into the draft. That's why he slid. He comes into camp, gets hurt immediately in the first preseason game, comes back, plays 1 week in practice leading up to the next game. On that Friday practice, gets hurt again, out for the year with an even more serious knee injury. Look, You got to stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, the Steelers got to steal in the 20th with the 20th pick in the 2023 draft, or excuse me, the 2024 draft. They got to steal. But so far, the injury concerns have come to fruition, and that's a problem. That is a big problem. But if he can stay healthy, and even if he just plays like he played last year against Denver, if he plays that way, then the Steelers again have better right tackle play than what they had all year long last season. But health is number one with Fautanu. Isaac Seamalu, I think he's got to return to being the physical presence at left guard that we know. I think he was banged up last year. Heck, he missed the first 4 games. We know that. We saw that. And whether it was a torn pec, strained pec, whatever it was, I think by the end of the year, he was worn out. I think whatever was ailing him, and you could see it because he wasn't the same. He just was not the same. He's got to get back to being that physical presence that he was the previous season. If he gets back to that, again, Steelers are going to have a better offensive line. That's just the facts of the matter. And then Zach Frazier. Look, Zach Frazier was the best offensive lineman the Steelers had last year. He's got to take another step forward. And look, I mean, you look at any metric that you want to as far as Zach Frazier. Zach Frazier's already in the top 5 of best centers in the league. Now, again, you would like to see that over a number of years. I totally understand that. But he's only been in the league 1 year. Well, you can't grade him on something that he hasn't even qualified to be able to do. So I like where Zach Frazier is. If he takes another step forward, look out. Look out, people. We may have found the next great center in Pittsburgh. I already think that, but him taking another step forward would absolutely solidify that. Here's the thing. Now, you guys know how I feel about Pro Football Focus. I am not the biggest Pro Football Focus guy. I say this, use it as a tool because it is a good tool, but it shouldn't be the end all be all for what you are basing, how somebody played in a football game. I'll always tell you, use your eyes, watch what happened, see what you see, and let that be the judge. Let that be the guide. And if it is, great. But you take a look at these 2024 PFF grades. Again, Zach Frazier, he was the number 5 center in the league last year, 77.9. Isaac Seamalu, he was the 26th offensive guard. Again, not being at full strength. Nobody's going to be able to convince me that he was full strength last year. You could watch and you could see. I suspect he'll be back at that this season, 66.3%. Troy Fautanu, look, 1 game, 64.4. Like I said, it was a pretty good game. That's why I don't go off of pro football all the time, because I watched a little bit of struggle in pass protection. He had a little struggle. He had no struggles when it came to run blocking. He had no struggles in that. Broderick Jones, 58.7, 65th as far as offensive tackles. Bad year. We can say whatever we want. We can give them all the excuses that we want. Bad year. It just flat out was bad. Hopefully, again, he's healthy. He's back at his preferred position. This is the year for Broderick Jones. This is the year. If he doesn't make it happen, I mean, bust is something that you could start calling Broderick Jones. There's a lot of you out there that are already doing that. I'm not going that far with Broderick just yet. But if he can't make it happen this year, that's exactly what he will be. Mason McCormick, 57.7. He was the 54th offensive guard. Again, a lot of this stuff, you look at the PFF grades and whatever they're trying to grade stuff on. I mean, a little bit of it. Maybe you don't. But the bottom line is, I think he may have been better than 54th if you just watch film. But we know, again, the technique just wasn't there, where he may have gotten the job done and it looked ugly. And in my mind, hey, if his guy that he's supposed to block doesn't make the tackle, okay, great. But a lot of double teams, like he was awful on double teams last year, didn't give his full commitment to the double team, too worried about going off and blocking a linebacker that wasn't a threat. That's all he cared about. So he would come off the line of scrimmage with a punch, but didn't come off hip to hip, didn't get tight with the center or with the guard or the tackle, whichever one. He was more worried about blocking a linebacker than actually getting movement at the point of attack. That's something that has to be corrected, because the Steelers run a lot of inside stuff, either inside zone or off tackle, power plays, downhill. Got to be able to work that double team when the time calls for it. So he's got to get a lot better at that. But again, these are just PFF grades, not the end all be all. But McCormick's got to get better. One thing is the Steelers got to build some depth. That's one of the things that we got to talk about as far as maybe in the draft, any leftover free agents, whatever the case may be. Look, going into last year, depth was a strength of the Steelers. We thought, man, we got a lot of offensive linemen. We got some depth here. Well, then they had to tap into it early. And when they had to tap into it, then it was like, well, yeah, we had depth, but now we don't. And then when they had to tap into it even more, the people behind them, those guys couldn't play. So that's why I'm saying that Steelers got to add some depth here soon. You need a swing tackle. I think they need another swing guard. They've got some stuff that they got to take care of in the remainder of the offseason to solidify this offensive line. Either way, they got to play better. They're the key. I know we talk about quarterback a lot, and quarterback, obviously, you have to have somebody. But if the offensive line is bad, you're not having a good football team, people. So let's go to the poll question. Poll number 1. Which offensive lineman do you believe will have the biggest impact on the Steelers' success this season? Is it A, Broderick Jones, B, Troy Fautanu, C, Mason McCormick, or D, Zach Frazier? And when you add a letter, for instance, add the poll number to the choice that you make. So if you choose B, Troy Fautanu, make sure you put B1. So that way we know exactly what poll question that you're answering. This is a good one as far as a poll. A lot of people are going to say Broderick, I have a feeling. A lot of people are going to say Broderick Jones. I don't know that I disagree. I would say either A or B. Either A or B. But C is just as important. C is just as important because if you don't have a strong interior, it's a problem. It's a problem. Let's move on, people. Ooh. I'll just ask you this question. Is Art Rooney II failing the Pittsburgh Steelers? So, look, for the last couple of, I would say the last couple of months, I've been really, really on Art Rooney is way more involved and is kind of getting in the way. First off, let's just look at the small staff. The Steelers don't have any offensive or defensive analysts. Like, why? Now, there's two folds to that. Number one, Mike Tomlin. I knew a lot of people right now are saying, hold on, Big B, Mike Tomlin. And you're right. Mike Tomlin has to allow for these people. First of all, he's got to hire them, and he's got to allow them to be hired. He's got to allow people to come in and say, hey, guys, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. We need to do this, this, and this. Just simply offensive and defensive analysts. That is all their job is to look at both the offense and defense and say, this isn't working. Analyze it. This is working. We are better at this than this. Now you can say, well, come on, don't they have people that do that? Don't the assistant coaches do that? The majority of the league, and I would say about 50% of college teams have offensive and defensive analysts. That all they're doing is breaking down what you do. They break down what you do, what works. Not necessarily scouting. They're analyzing you. What you do well. What does the left guard do well? Or better yet, what is the offensive line? What do they block well? If you block a certain play this way, do they do it better than blocking in a different way? Everybody wanted to throw out the toss play last year and thought, oh, the toss play never works. Well, an offensive analyst could come in and say, well, hold on, guys. It actually does work. We just missed one block from one guy. If we get the block, the play is a 10-yard gain. Now, I know a lot of you would say, well, if they can never get the block, then they got to stop running it. Well, you would be right. But an offensive analyst can get in there. You stop calling toss plays. They're not going to work because we can't block it. And this is why. Maybe that's being missed. You would hope that it wasn't. But if I can see it and you guys can see it, you would hope people that are being paid to see it can. But you need that. You need that kind of stuff. Defensive analysts the same way. Now, that'll be a little bit more difficult because you technically have a defensive coordinator and the head coach. Then you have an actual defensive coordinator. I mean, if you need a defensive analyst as well, then Lord have mercy. What are people doing? So that's my thing. But Art Rooney has to get off the dime and pay some of those people. It can't just be all on Tomlin, because maybe Tomlin is actually wanting to have those people involved, and Art Rooney is saying, no, we don't need this. We don't need that. The cheapest coaching staff in the National Football League. We can't be cheap. And that's kind of what it's been, is that not wanting to pay, not wanting to do this. Now, my biggest issue with Art Rooney II is that he doesn't hold Mike Tomlin accountable. That's right. He doesn't hold Mike Tomlin accountable. Well, what are you talking about, Big B? Pretty simple. He gave Mike Tomlin an extension last year. He didn't have to give. Yes, he gave him an extension that he did not have to give. Mike Tomlin had a year left on his contract. We heard Art Rooney come out before the season. I think he came out, said it was, I know what he said. I want to say it was in July, may have been sooner. It's time for us to start winning. It's time for us to start winning. Great. You're right. It is. Well, why are you giving a guy an extension if he hasn't proven that he's going to start winning? That's what I'm talking about, holding him accountable. How are you holding Mike Tomlin accountable if he hadn't won a playoff game in 7 years and then he got an extension? I don't get too caught up in the money part of that, because you're going to pay somebody what you believe that they're worth. So the money part, nobody should be mad about that. First of all, it's not our money. It's not your money. And they're not paying us. Don't count Mike Tomlin's pocketbook. Don't do that. It's not our business. Okay, he gets paid what he gets paid. My whole thing was, why are you paying him? What's he done that says we need to do that? At some point, you have to hold Mike Tomlin accountable. And what are you holding him accountable for? Well, is it putting butts in the seats? The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to have people in the stands if Mickey Mouse is the head coach. It's going to be sold out. So he's not doing that. Okay? So let's not act like people, oh, man, we're going to the game to watch Mike Tomlin stand on the sideline and coach. No. No, that is not what's going on. So that part takes care of itself. It's the NFL. They print money. So there's that. Okay, so then what's next? Winning. At some point, he has to win. And Art Rooney II has to demand that he wins. I get it. It's been such a stable franchise. I totally understand it. I totally understand. 3 coaches since 1969. That's unheard of. And it's a testament to how stable the franchise can be. But they ran Chuck Noll off. Now, there's going to be some of you out there that say, well, Chuck Noll retired. There was friction when Chuck Noll retired. There was friction between him and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Why? Because he didn't want to quit. But they said it was time for him to quit. So he did. You can't run Mike Tomlin out? Now, again, I'm not calling for Mike Tomlin to be fired, so I don't want this to be a misconception on anything. But all I'm saying is, if you can run Chuck Noll out, then you can tell Mike Tomlin, I need to see a playoff win, or else. You can have that conversation with him. And they don't do it. They haven't done it. And that's my problem. He doesn't force change within the coaching staff. Like Matt Canada. Oh, excuse me. I apologize. We don't say that name on Steelers Almighty. The previous offensive coordinator. Okay? After 1 year, he should have said, Mike, he's finished. Either you can fire him or I'll do it, but he's not coaching not another second on the team that I own. That should have been a conversation that happened. Everybody saw it after 1 year. People do it all the time. They change offensive and defensive coordinators after a year all the time. And another thing, as far as Mike Tomlin is concerned, or the Pittsburgh Steelers are concerned, Art Rooney's more involved than what you think. Like, Art Rooney is way more involved in the day-to-day stuff than what he leads on and what we think. He's involved. Now, as far as his record, look, some of you are going to look at this and say, as the president, he's won 2 Super Bowls. For people that are on the podcast, we've got a graphic up here of Art Rooney II and what he has done. 224 games, his record as president, not owner, president. And there is a big difference, people, because his father was still alive, as the owner while he was president. 224. He's won 143 and 81 games. Win percentage is 63.8. They scored 23 points a game, allowed 18, 9 playoff appearances, 2 Super Bowl wins. And I know, Steeler fan, you're going to be quick to come out and say, hey, man, he wasn't in charge. You're damn right he wasn't in charge. You're damn right he was not in charge. So there's that. But you go to him as the guy in charge, 132 games, a record 80 and 50, 61.4% win percentage, points per game down 21.8, points allowed up 20.4, 5 playoff appearances, 0 Super Bowl wins. So all I'm saying is it's time for Art Rooney II to start taking charge. Start taking charge, man, and demand change. I understand that your grandfather did it a different way, that your father did it a different way. But they shouldn't say coach, they owned the franchise and ran the franchise in a different time than right now. Things in the National Football League are not the same as now as what they were 10 years ago, much less 50, 60. You have to make changes. They've got to make a change. And again, I'm not saying you have to change the coaching staff. You have to change your philosophy of, I'm just going to let the football guys do it. Although I'm way more involved than what people believe. Yeah, make the decision. Come to me. I'll tell you yes or no. Do something different. Because whatever you're doing right now is not working to win playoff games. And that's the ultimate goal. Super Bowl. Playoff wins. Something. And it's just not working, man. Let's go to the poll question. I'm sorry. Art Rooney II's got to be better. He just got to be better. I apologize for being fired up, but, he's got to be better. Poll question number 2. Should the Steelers consider hiring more offensive and defensive analysts to improve team performance? A, yes, additional eyeballs are essential for success. B, no, more staff won't sway Tomlin's strategies. Ooh. C, maybe, but I just want to clean house and fire everybody. I feel like C is going to be the answer for a lot of you. But B, I feel like that could be a lot of answers for you. So, but I don't know. Maybe A will be too. Maybe A. Maybe it's all of the above. Who knows? Either way, make sure you put whatever your answer is, make sure you put a 2 by the letter so we know exactly what poll that you guys are answering. Let's move on. We are at halftime, ladies and gentlemen. Last week, April 4th, was our 1-year anniversary of Steelers Almighty. That's right. I know some of you think we've been around forever. Nope. Just 1 year. 1 year. And because of that, because of the support that you guys have given us, we've been able to grow, and become one of the fastest growing Steelers channels on YouTube. That's what we have become. It's because of you guys. We put in the hard work, the time, the graphics that you guys see behind me and my partner. And we put in the work to be able to bring you guys the best content possible, man. And you guys have shown your support for that, and we will keep doing that. So we want to thank you, number one. Supers are just one way to help support the channel. You guys know that. And if you choose to do that, we absolutely appreciate it. Super chats are wide open, and they are. I mean, it's look, it's almost like we're begging or asking. We're not asking you to do that. Just if you want to help support the channel, absolutely help support the channel, and we'll continue to put these things out for you guys. So make sure to keep commenting on the show like you guys always do. Always hit the like, follow button, and all that good stuff. Now, one thing is, as far as membership, now we got something new. It's not new memberships or anything like that. The memberships have been open for a while, but we have opened a Facebook page. It is a new Facebook group that houses nothing but the all 22 videos. That's where they are stored. So if you are a level 4 member or higher, you can get the all 22, all games right there in that Facebook group. It's the way that we have to do it, unfortunately. But that's just another avenue for us to be able to get you guys content, and it's not that big of a deal. It's just, like I said, it's a private Facebook group specifically for members at level 4 or higher, and you will get the all 22 game film from each and every game. We are doing games from last season that we got uploaded there, and obviously all the games from the upcoming season, we'll have all those there as well. So if you want to help support the channel in that way, make sure that you sign up there. For our audio listeners, the link is in the episode's description. The link is also pinned for comments, for members, for level 4 or higher. You'll be able to catch that. So we appreciate everybody. Thank you guys again for your support. Let's get back to the show. Okay, so next up, we got an interview here. I told you all we would talk to. I was trying to get our basically our quarterback guru that I know that does it for a living, breaks down quarterbacks either in the draft or that are currently in the league as well. His name is CJ. So we're going to bring you guys that interview right now. We got our man CJ. He is our quarterback guru. Knows all about quarterbacks, studies quarterbacks not only in the league, but also coming up in the draft. So obviously, with the Steelers needing to get their quarterback situation solved, we're going to be talking about quarterbacks today. So we got our man Chris here. First off, Chris, he is a senior analyst for Football Game Plan. Also, he's a member of the Football Writers of America. He also does fantasy football analyst for Pix 11 in NYC, has his own podcast as well as host of Chopping It Up with CJ. So first off, CJ, how are you doing, my man?
I'm making it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but I'm doing well. How about yourself, Big B?
Doing all right. There's a lot. Obviously, we've been talking about the Steelers quarterback situation for a long time. All off season, trying to figure it out. People are panicking because we don't have a quarterback. Let me just ask you this question, CJ. Today, as we talk, it's April 3rd. Should Steeler fans actually be panicked that there's nobody as far as who we think should be the starting quarterback as of this moment? Or is this a situation to where, yeah, you'd like to have somebody, but it's not time to hit the panic button?
So 2 layers. Fans, don't panic yet. You got plenty of time during the regular season to panic about things not going the way you may want them or may not want them to. Also, you still have a whole thing called the NFL draft that's going to happen, and you never know what could happen. You could get lucky and someone could drop to you out of University of Colorado, but that's another story for another day. Don't panic too much. The brass of the Steelers should be panicked more than any fan at this stage.
Gotcha. It's kind of what I thought, is that the brass of the Steelers. But then again, as I started this channel, it'll be a year ago on April 4th. And Steeler fans panic. It's like, we panic. That's what we do. That's what we do. It's like, hey, if things aren't going exactly the way that we think they should be, we are going berserk. So let's get into this a little bit. So, obviously there's an evaluation going on. Not so much an evaluation of Aaron Rodgers and Mason Rudolph. Those are the two quarterbacks. Obviously, Rudolph's on the roster right now. There's tons of talk that Aaron Rodgers is going to be here. Maybe he is holding out for another team. That's, again, different conversation for a different day. But kind of give everybody your evaluation of both of those quarterbacks at this point in their respective careers.
Sure. So I'll start with what they are as entities and then kind of how they attach to the Steelers. So we'll start with Mason Rudolph. He's made some really good strides and has actually shown up as a quarterback that has some value. He's not a franchise quarterback or even a starter. He is a fringe spot starter who does the job that you want from your backup quarterback. He is a good number 2 to have in there because he knows how to play NFL football at this stage, and he's probably going to help out outside of just on the field, the off the field stuff, in the classroom, etc. Aaron Rodgers at this point. Aaron Rodgers, if he disabuses himself of being Aaron Rodgers, can be a good quarterback at this stage of what he is. He's still trying to do the athletic stuff and roll out and do all these things that's not in his repertoire anymore. You know what he does have? Accuracy. You know what he does have? Timing. If he actually gets that going and does what Tom Brady did late in his career, Aaron Rodgers can be an actual viable low-end starter in the NFL at this stage and would be an upgrade to what Rudolph is for a team. As far as they attach to the Steelers, Rodgers is not the quarterback that fits what Arthur Smith wants to do. Oddly enough, on a very low end, Mason Rudolph is. He can do the boot game, all that stuff that they want to do with a quarterback.
See, and that's my dilemma, CJ, is that because I've said this over and over that if Rodgers comes in, like, you know, the nonsense that we heard about Russell Wilson doing all those audibles in the Cincinnati game and Arthur Smith and him butting heads, if Aaron Rodgers were to do that and Arthur Smith had pushback, Aaron Rodgers is not going to listen to any of that. I feel like Rodgers is going to come in, and while Arthur Smith will be the offensive coordinator, I feel like there's going to be so many wrinkles to Aaron to just basically to complement what Aaron Rodgers does well. There's going to be so many of those wrinkles that I don't know that we're even going to recognize for a lot of this, CJ, that this is really an Arthur Smith offense. You get any of those vibes?
If you've ever met Arthur Smith, that will not happen.
Okay.
There will not be a change to an Aaron Rodgers offense. I actually think if Cam Ward wasn't going there, he would have been a better fit in Tennessee as kind of a bridge. But Steelers country, I don't think that it's a fit at all because of how he would have to be utilized in this offense, and Arthur Smith's not going to bend. You need something built around Aaron Rodgers, and we know if Russell Wilson wasn't willing to kind of just go along with the plan, do you think Aaron Rodgers would go along with the plan? No.
Right. Well, and then that kind of switches to, you know, Mason Rudolph. I mean, if Mason Rudolph is a better fit, are the Steelers just better off going with that?
At this stage, I think Mason Rudolph is the veteran they should have on the roster. I don't believe that they should bring in Aaron Rodgers, even though they're probably going to do it if he decides to sign. And then I would go with the youth movement. I wish they would have done a move that, if you want to get into it, they should have done, but now they can't. I thought they should send a day 3 pick for Joe Milton and get him in the building as well. But now he's in Dallas. So
see, I'm against Joe Milton. I don't like Joe Milton, and I bring up that Milton lost 2 jobs in college. He's not a very accurate thrower. He's never been a very accurate thrower. Even the year in Tennessee's offense is not a pro offense. I mean, all the receivers outside the numbers lining up. They stretch the field crazy, especially with the hash marks. With college being wider, it's not the same thing as the NFL. I didn't like Milton. And Steelers didn't, like I said, they didn't send a late round pick to go get him. I didn't agree. I just don't like Milton. I get what you're saying, but I'm against Milton. I just don't think he's that good of a quarterback. But the one thing that I did like, you know, Skylar Thompson's on the team. You brought this up as far as a backup quarterback. To me, and look, I went to Kansas State. Kansas State fans are probably going to be mad at me for saying this, but Skylar Thompson is not what you want in a backup quarterback. And it doesn't have anything to do with his ability. It's because every time he gets on the field, CJ, he's always hurt. It's like you can't be the backup, but then as soon as you get on the field, you get hurt. That is not what teams need in a backup quarterback, is it, CJ?
It is not, and I actually had a pretty solid grade on Skylar Thompson. He was a fringe, he was a spot starter. I think I
Yeah,
had a 78 or 79 grade. The issue is apparently I don't know what's going on with the Dolphins organization with quarterbacks, but anyone who touched the field couldn't play like 10 straight games.
right.
So Thompson got on the field, immediately got hurt. So you're correct. You want your backup quarterback. If he can't stay in for 2 games, then why is he your backup?
Correct. Correct. Now he had a little bit of injury history at K-State too, but yeah, that was my thing. I was like, man, we can't before anything went down, the Steelers signed Skylar Thompson. I was like, he can't be the backup because again, as much as I love him because he went to K-State, your backup can't be the guy that gets out there and after a game and a half, he gets hurt, and that just doesn't fly as backup quarterbacks go. Um, moving on. So obviously a lot of Steeler fans, and I mean a lot of them, want the Steelers. They either want them to take a quarterback in this draft or take one in next draft. I keep saying, we talk about 2026 like we think that it's going to be gold. We don't even know all the quarterbacks that are actually even going to be in the draft. So scrap 2026. Let's just talk about the quarterbacks now. What are your evaluation of the top 10 quarterbacks and give us your order down the list. This is your thing that you do of the top 10 quarterbacks of this draft, CJ.
Sure. So I decided to. I watched the games during the regular season, but part of that is watching them as a fan. Postseason, doing evals on the players, also talking to folks, and seeing how things kind of lay themselves out. I had 2 quarterbacks who deserve first round grades, and they're the 2 that are being considered for first round grades. That's Cam Ward, who's just a tick. He's got an 87 grade versus Shador Sanders having an 86.5. To put that into context, those are both not just first round picks, but those are franchise level quarterbacks. I do believe more in Shador Sanders than people uh, are putting out there. To be honest, I didn't come up with this comp or this way of talking about him, but for the last 2 years, my guy Emory Hunt has been talking about him as the Black Joe Burrow, and I think they have a lot of the same strengths and weaknesses. With Shador being not as much of an athlete as Joe, but still, I mean, they're the type of guys you want. They're tough as nails. Yeah. Then there's a drop off. I have 2 guys grouped together after that, and that's going to be Jalen Milroe, who's got much more upside than the next guy, but these 2 are low end starters, and Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart actually would be the guy that the Steelers should look to, especially personally. It's a day 2 pick, but at 21, that's not a terrible pick. He's better than Kenny Pickett, period. So I wouldn't think it was an egregious move for them to pursue Jackson Dart, who would fit into an Arthur Smith offense. Think of Ryan Tannehill, but a little more physically gifted, to be honest. Then we're going to go with Quentin Ewers. He's a fringe starter type guy. He is, and a lot of these drafts are going to have these guys. So don't be upset that you don't have 5 or 6 starters in a draft. Getting 2 to 3 is really good.
Right.
Next up is going to be Graham Mertz, a guy who actually he improved quite a bit moving from Wisconsin, going to Florida. I think he stood very well and strong in the pocket before DJ Lagway took over. I thought Graham Mertz, before the injury, was actually holding up really well. So he would be my QB6. My QB7, Brady Cook, tough as nails. He's the type of guy that's going to come out. He's going to be that Andy Dalton type guy. There was nothing that he faced that he didn't try to overcome. He's just a little physically limited compared to the other guys in the draft. You're going to go with a guy like Dylan Gabriel. Again, quintessential spot starter backup guy. If Miami were to get him and pair him with Tua, one of those guys is going to be playing. They're going to be playing a lot alike. So I would like that addition. If I got him on my team as a backup quarterback, that would be wonderful. And then just to finish it out, a guy who everyone's talked about, Tyler Shuck. Listen, he can spin the ball. He's a perfect 7-on-7 quarterback. But if you don't like contact and you're 25, almost 26 years old, it's not going to get easier in the NFL. So I can't believe in that until he shows that he's fine with taking the contact. That's why I have him rated so low, because he can spin the ball. He can throw the heck out of it. And my last guy, Riley Leonard, complete opposite. That is one of the toughest guys in this entire draft. He just has a limited ceiling on his physical capabilities. He's a perfect backup, someone who would fit in well, let's say, in Buffalo with a late round pick.
Right. So, I've been on the channel screaming that I can't stand Milroe and I don't like Dart. Uh, The only reason I don't like Milroe is because obviously his athletic tools are incredible. You can't. I mean, I'm not sure how many quarterbacks we've even seen come out in the draft that has been as athletically gifted as him. But I don't like his throwing mechanics. I don't like him at all. I've seen it, and Jackson Dart just plays in a funny offense at Ole Miss. That's the only reason that I don't like Jackson Dart. It's, and I get that he is a good fit for Arthur Smith offense. That offense at Ole Miss, though, I'm just same thing, kind of what I talked about with Joe Milton. I'm just not sure I'm a believer in any of that. And I think Tyler Shook, obviously I'm biased. I'm a diehard Louisville fan. Um, the one thing about it, you're right about his contact. And first of all, right or wrong, you're the expert, not me. He's gotten hurt. And there's no doubt that he has gotten hurt over his career at Oregon, at Texas Tech. That's been his thing. But it wasn't like knee injuries or shoulder injuries or wrist. It wasn't soft tissue or ligament damage. It's like a broken bone, which broken bones, obviously it's football. Bones break. That's the way it works. But it wasn't something that's going to be like, okay, well, his shoulder got blown out. It's never going to be the same. Or his knee was blown out. It's never going to be the same. It wasn't those type of injuries. His collarbone. If you're breaking those type of things, those come back and you can be just fine. Is that the reason that you're a little bit lower on him than what maybe a lot of other people are?
So the injury history itself, I'm not going to hold against him. To your point, they're not catastrophic injuries. They're just consistent injuries, to be candid.
Right.
Either you're going to take the contact and not shy away from it, or you're not. It's not going to get easier in the NFL. Unless he thinks he was playing the easy game to get to the next level and all of a sudden he's going to show it. That's what I don't have faith in. It's kind of my knock against Jackson Dart, who I think is a tough guy. He's willing to take the contact. The problem is he changes in some of those have-to-have-it moments.
Yeah.
And I can't get that out of my mind. I cannot get that Florida game out of my mind where he tried to throw 3 interceptions in a row for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that people keep forgetting about Milroe, and I understand, he had the widest variance of any of the quarterbacks. I do range of outcomes along with the different ratings that go into building my rating profile. And he had the lowest. He could be a camp arm. He could not make the NFL, or he could be a low-level all-pro. This guy is brilliant. He's going to put the work in. He won the academic Heisman. So people keep kind of breezing over that. That guy is truly brilliant. So he'll pick anything up. He's going to work his tail off. And even if he doesn't have some of the mechanics stuff down, that's why he's a developmental prospect. Someone that I'm not advocating for a first round pick for him. If you took him in day 2, I understand because of the positional value. But if you got him on your roster, you have to understand what you have. You have a 2-year project who could possibly be your franchise quarterback for the next 10 years after that. You have to treat him as such.
Gotcha. Here's the thing. Do teams, because I'm glad you brought up that point about how smart he is, because I think a lot of times that not just him, but other quarterbacks in general, I think that gets glossed over a lot about how smart. For instance, like Shedeur Sanders, people talk about this and that, and I'm like, the one thing that everybody will tell you is his football IQ is through the roof. And through the roof. That's one of the reasons that he's so good, is because he can anticipate throws so much. And let me get back to Shedeur. Let's get back to him, because we did on the big show that we have here on Steelers Almighty. Me and my guy Big G, we did a little ping pong draft, and we both did Steeler picks, but at 21, I had him dropping to 21 and the Steelers taking him. I thought, you know what? Because if he gets to 9, CJ, and he doesn't get drafted at 9, like, who else needs a quarterback that's going to be willing to draft a quarterback and just, you just start looking at the draft and you're being realistic. You're like, well, they don't need one. They don't need one. They don't need one. And you just go down and down and down. And it's like, well, the Steelers do. And not only do the Steelers need a guy, with what their plans are, he doesn't have to come in and start right now. If the plans, if Aaron Rodgers actually comes in, then Shedeur Sanders doesn't have to start right away, and he can sit back and watch, which is what everybody used to do for the most part. You get a quarterback, they sit and watch for a year, and then they come in the next year. which is always been weird to me because the investment on quarterbacks used to be so high. You would think that they would put them out there early. Now that that's kind of flipped and the investment isn't as high as what it used to be when you take these quarterbacks so early, you would think, well, why aren't you letting them sit and watch for a year or two so they can get ready? But they don't do that anymore. But I think if that happened, and I've been saying it, if Shador is there, now granted, here's my thing. If Kenneth Grant is there, I think the Steelers have to take him. But I don't think he's going to be there. And that's why we did the draft the way we did, because I'm like, I think Grant gets picked. If he's there, you take him. But if Shador happens to be there, CJ, I think the Steelers have to grab him.
I mean, you're right. Even Steve, I got a Heisman vote, even though I didn't qualify for it. McNair sat for 2 years behind. I think it was Chris Chandler back then. And the guy who might be the starter for the Steelers if he decides to acquiesce, Aaron Rodgers took 2.5 years off to start his
Yes.
career. I don't think Shador gets to number 21. I actually had a hot take on Twitter, on X, whatever you call it now, where I said 2 quarterbacks would go in the top 5. I believe that. But if he does get to, let's say, 13, 14, the Steelers, if they want him, they have to do something that they're allergic to doing, trade up.
Yeah.
And the reason is, that there's a team that would consider doing it because this guy's not going to play forever. I think the Rams would jump up and take Shador, knowing that they got one more year of Matt Stafford, and they're not a dumb organization.
They are
So
not.
they need to go get him if they want to get him in the mid-teens.
Yeah. And the Rams are willing to give up picks for the people. They're like, they don't care. Hey, if we want, like, they traded picks to get Jalen Ramsey. I mean, they'll trade picks to go get football players if they believe that it's going to help their franchise. So you're right. That wouldn't be something that, heck, they gave up picks to get Matthew Stafford. So
Yep.
they're not against doing what needs to be done. You're right. They're not a dumb franchise. And maybe it's a wish and a hope and a dream for the Steelers to get to 21. Here's the other thing about it is, you've heard Deion Sanders say several times, there's probably about 3 or 4 franchises in the top 5, in the top 10 that he's not going to let his son go to. I think the team at number 2 would be a team, again, we're not going to name them. I think everybody knows who's picking second. I think at number 2, now granted, they're talking about taking Abdul Carter. Okay, great. But there's a few teams that I don't even think that Deion's going to allow his son to go to in the top 5 and definitely in the top 10. Does that hold true for you?
I will say this. I don't think Deion would pull a full Manning. I don't think he would pull a full one. I think he has preferred destinations because he wants to protect his son and he wants to make sure over anything. You can have cities that aren't ideal. Like Green Bay is not an ideal vacation city. But if you have a well-run organization, that's what he's more concerned with. And the team picking at 2, maybe they haven't run things as well as some of the other teams in their division. So he would prefer for his son to go somewhere where they actually have a chance to run it well.
Gotcha.
And I don't think he's going to stand away. If his son went number 2, he would get up there, he'd champion his son and say he's going to take over that town and the new stadium that they're talking about building like 5 years out and make sure that they're a winner. So end of the day, I do think that there's going to be kind of an itch. Quarterback is the position that no matter what, there's got to be, you have to have some serious flags in your tape, which Shador does not have. He's got some labor throws. He has some holding on to the ball too long. Again, that was Joe Burrow's problem. Held on to the ball to make sure a big play happened. And by the way, for the people who want to judge his tape and say he missed throws in 2024, go look at 2023. There was concerted effort to get Travis Hunter the ball whenever possible to get him the Heisman this year. Go look at his 2023 tape. Looks different. So I think teams will realize how good he is on tape. And if he's a mid-range starter, 10 to 15 in the NFL, that is not bad. That can win you games and get you far in the playoffs, maybe even win you a Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll get you out of here on this, CJ. Give us the top 3 quarterbacks for 2025 season that either are the best fit. Let's just say the best fit would be the best situation for a Steelers season, if that makes sense. who are the three quarterbacks? And it can be anybody. It can be from Aaron Rodgers down to a rookie. Whoever you think are the top three quarterbacks to be on the Pittsburgh Steelers for them to have a successful season this year.
Sure. So without trades being part of the package, I'm going to
Right.
start with the number 4 is Aaron Rodgers because he's Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
Number 3 is Mason Rudolph, not because he's going to win you a bunch of games, but he fits in there and he can run that offense. 2 and 1, number 2 is Jackson Dart because, again, he does fit in. And if they're able to get him at a value, if they're able to get him by jumping up in the second round, if they have to take him at 21, it's a little rich, but I think he fits what Arthur Smith wants to do. And then number 1 is Shedeur Sanders if they can get him because he's just a better quarterback than any of the other options I just talked about.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've kind of been on record. I'm like, and I say, look, all the Rodgers stuff, it is what it is. He does not a fit for the Steelers, for that offense, but I think he's a good quarterback because he's a better quarterback than Mason Rudolph. I mean, he just is. Because I think the Steelers can win games with Mason Rudolph. I don't know if it's really long-term sustainable, but I think they can win 9 to 11 games with Mason Rudolph as their quarterback because everybody, well, this will be the year the Steelers don't win, and they keep winning. So until I see it, I'm never going to believe that it's not going to happen. Now, granted, I don't really care that much about Mike Tomlin's 500, over 500 streak because when you don't win in the playoffs as a fan, I could care less about the regular season at this point because I always say, look, if you could qualify for the regular season and win 0 games, but you can win me a playoff game or 2, I would take it. I go, at this point, that's where I'm at, CJ. And I think a lot of Steeler fans are there too. So, and what you're saying is you think that the better fits for the Steelers for this year and moving forward is going rookie. I was there. I like Rodgers more, but I like that approach. Is like, look, if you're going to get a quarterback in this draft, take one now. Take the best guy that's available. I'm with you, and just roll with that guy. Let me ask you this. And again, I said I'd get you out of here. This will be my last question. Compared to 2026, because there's a multitude of Steeler fans that just say, nope, build up the roster, go draft the guy in 2026. Because everybody's itching for Arch Manning. And I'm like, hey, pump the brakes. Arch Manning hasn't even started 5 football games yet. I go, we don't know, exactly what he looks like. Because I saw him play against Georgia, who had a lot of NFL guys, and he didn't look good in that game. But is it better to just get your guy now if you think he's the guy, CJ, or should they wait for the next season?
So hope is the number one thing that fans turn to when they don't think that they can win. And Arch Manning, I think, is uber talented. But you know what? To your point, and it's the point I've been making, can we see that young man actually start a full season or even half a season before we anoint him as anything? We've seen what happened to the generational talent that is Trevor Lawrence. So instead of waiting, you can wait all you want to. If you miss this year, it's okay. You can come back next year and draft another guy. You want to try to get the best opportunity possible while you have the chance. And if that's Jackson Dart, I don't agree with it in the first round, but take him. If he doesn't work out, guess what you can do next year? You'll have a first round pick. Take another guy. And there's top end talent next year in the draft that's eligible, but we don't know if they're all coming out with NIL working the way it does. Right. And if you go look back, prior to being the number 1 pick in most of these drafts, the year prior, those guys were off the radar. Joe Burrow was a 4th or 5th round pick the year before he destroyed the SEC. Right. So let things play out. Take a guy now and then let it play out next year. And if you get a better opportunity, do it then.
Right. And we've seen it in recent history. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals are the perfect example. They drafted a guy 10th. Very next year, they said, nope, we're not. And I always say this, CJ, and I'm sure you'll appreciate it. It's one thing to make a mistake. Nobody's perfect. It happens. It's another thing to live in the mistake. And if you live in the mistake, well, that's your fault. Everybody makes mistakes. Nobody's human. Or everybody's human, excuse me. But if you live in that mistake when you don't have to, like Arizona said, nope, absolutely, Rosen is not the guy. We're done. We're taking Kyler Murray with the number 1 pick, and we're getting him out of here. Heck, the Steelers did it. They took Kenny Pickett, and they said 2 years later, they're like, absolutely not. This is not the guy. We got to get him out of here. So it can be done. It
Yep.
absolutely can be done. And I agree with you. Don't be, if you think this is the guy, take him. But if he turns out not to be, okay, because it doesn't set your franchise back like it did in years past. Everybody's, oh, if you miss on the quarterback, it sets you back 5 years. No, it doesn't do that anymore. Not anymore. I go, before it used to. Yes, you were right, because the financial investment, it crushed you. It doesn't crush you anymore. So you're able to do those things. I like that. I like that approach, CJ. I'm glad you brought that up, man. Again, man, let everybody know. First of all, thank you for taking the time to join us today. Tell everybody again where they can find you and all the good stuff that you're doing.
Sure. So you can find me on, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Pod. You can find my podcast, Chopping It Up with CJ. Right now, what we're doing is looking at the free agency period, and pretty soon I'll start releasing all of my ranked players for this draft by position. Come into the football season, you can see me if you're in the tri-state area of New York doing fantasy coverage for Pix 11. And then I'll be popping around, making sure that I don't stay buried in the sand over the summer. I will be available on multiple mediums with some of the gentlemen I worked with through Football Game Plan as well. So you'll be able to see my above average face across a lot of mediums.
Absolutely. Well, the one thing that I know for a fact is we will be calling you as soon as all this Steelers stuff, the quarterback stuff gets all figured out, whatever it is, we will absolutely be calling you and having you on again, man. So I want to thank you again, and we appreciate your time today, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on as usual.
All right, we want to thank CJ again, man, for giving up his time. He does this for a living. He loves breaking down quarterbacks. We'll have him back on too. Don't worry, people. We will absolutely have him back on when it's time to talk Steelers quarterback once it all gets played out and figured out after the draft. So let's go to the poll question, though. So, all right. Who do you think should be the Steelers starting quarterback in 2025? It's just that straightforward. Pretty simple. A, Aaron Rodgers. B, Shedeur Sanders. C, Tyler Shuck. D, Mason Rudolph. E, Kirk Cousins. Ugh. F, Jackson Dart. Or G, Will Howard. A lot of names, people. A lot of names, a lot of possibilities. Lot of possibilities. But who do you guys think should be the Steelers starting quarterback? Again, um, once you have your selection, make sure you put the number 3 behind what letter that you want to select. That way we know exactly what poll question that you guys are answering with that. So appreciate you guys. You all do a really good job of that. So I appreciate it. So let's move on. All right. Mock draft time. Now, again, this one, I think it's one of the better mock drafts that I've done, one of the better ones that I've seen. And I thought it was important. You know, we've done some with running back was the first pick, quarterback the first pick, D tackle is the first pick. Well, this one, I did the simulator and I said, you know what? We're just going to do the best available. That's it. No other. We're just not looking at position. We're not looking at anything other than who is the best available player based on the rankings that they have. Who's the best available player every single pick that the Steelers have from the first round, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. That's it. We didn't look at position. We didn't look at anything other than that's the next player that comes on the top player that comes on the board. That's what we did. It was pretty interesting too, because it kind of took people in a position. It's almost like these simulators are starting to figure out, okay, these teams need this guy here, this guy there, this guy at this certain time in the draft, so it's almost like they have that figured out. Which is pretty cool in itself, but AI can do anything. So let's get started on this. Oh, by the way, we didn't do any trades on the draft either. They always come up with trades. It's too messy to try to mess with trades. Just, hey, line up, here are the Steelers picks, and let's go from there. So with the first round pick at number 21, the Steelers took Kelvin Banks. He was available. Offensive tackle out of Texas. A lot of people think he's either the first, second, maybe third. I haven't seen him fall past the second best offensive tackle, but there's a few out there, but he's definitely not lower than the third. He was available at 21. This is who they said the Steelers should take. Look, I get it. The Steelers have 2 tackles. In the last 2 drafts, they've drafted tackles. But are we positive about Broderick? Are we positive Troy can stay healthy? I've told you before, you never stop investing in offensive line. Not to mention, who's to say that, hey, because Kelvin Banks is a tackle. He is not a guard. He's a tackle. A lot of talk about Troy Fautanu might actually be a guard. He's playing tackle, but a lot of people think that his best position is guard. Who knows? I don't know. You put Banks at right tackle, although Banks is a left tackle, and I think he could be better than Broderick, actually. But if you put him at right and you move Fautanu inside, I don't know, people. I'm just spitballing. But that's who they should say they should take. I don't necessarily disagree. I'd never stop investing in the offensive line. I don't care how many you got. So in the 3rd round, he was available. I was on him early, and I kind of backed off, after the Senior Bowl, Combine. I backed off a little bit, and his stock has fallen a little bit too. But in the 3rd round, Deion Walker, defensive tackle out of Kentucky. You know, he was a mid, and when all this process started, he was a 1st-round pick. And then, then the breakdown started to happen. Then it was 2nd round, and now it's 3rd round. His senior year did a number on him, and he kind of did it to himself, to be honest with you, because his junior year, he couldn't be blocked. You just couldn't block the kid. Senior year looked like, I don't want to get hurt. I came back for NIL. I'm going to try to increase my draft stock, but I don't want to get hurt. Didn't play with the same type of fire, and it showed. You could see it on tape. So hopefully he can get back to that junior year saying, hey, now it's time. If he does, it's a great pick. And I'll be honest with you. If he gets the junior year film back and that's what he plays like in the National Football League, Steelers got a steal in the 3rd round if they get him here. Absolute steal in the 3rd round. Next pick, 4th round. DJ Giddens, running back out of Kansas State. His stock has been going up lately by all over the place. Again, that 40 time that he ran at the combine, people thought he was going to be like a 4.58 guy. He was 4.43, so a lot faster than what people had anticipated. He was banged up near the end of last year, and so people thought, okay, maybe he's not that fast. But you see some of his breakaway runs that he had earlier in the season, he was not banged up, and he was running away from people. And he's elusive. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's a willing blocker, likes contact. He's a soft-spoken kid, not very vocal or anything like that. So he's not going to be a vocal leader or anything, but he works hard. He works hard. The only thing that DJ Giddens likes to do, he likes to play football and he likes to fish. That's what he likes to do. So get him in the 4th round, I think, could do the Steelers very well. And you talk about splitting carries with Jaylen Warren. In another year, if this is the pick, he's taking over the majority of the carries. That's just what's going to happen. Next up, 5th round, Kyle McCord, quarterback out of Syracuse. Now, the Ohio State fan, Big G's not going to like him because, look, Kyle McCord was the scapegoat for the year in 2023 for Ohio State Buckeyes. They blamed everything on him. It was all his fault. Well, it wasn't all his fault. He goes to Syracuse. Now, don't get me wrong. ACC, step down in competition. I'm not going to deny that in some aspects. I mean, it's not like the Big Ten is just blowing the socks off of people, but it's a step down in competition. But McCord lit it up. He absolutely lit it up. And he's getting a lot of buzz lately as far as, hey, in the 5th round, you're getting a steal with Kyle McCord. I like him. I've said that. I 100% believe that he was a scapegoat for Ohio State fans, just the Ohio State program in general. And I don't even know why he needed to be. You wanted somebody else, just go get somebody else, and move on, which is what they did. But they blamed everything on him, and I'm like, it was not all his fault. It absolutely was not all his fault. But a 5th round grade, it's probably about right. I don't know if it's a steal like people are saying, but if the Steelers could get him, I would like it. I would like it. Next up, Jordan Hancock, cornerback out of Ohio State. Tested well. but I fear he might be one of those guys that tests well, maybe doesn't play spectacular. I think he's pretty good, um, but a 6th-round grade is probably, to me, might be a little high, might be more like a 7th round, but plays hard, can play fast, a little handsy, but in the 6th round, decent value. I mean, again, it might be a little bit of a reach, but are you really reaching in the 6th and 7th round? I'm not. Excuse me, I'm not sure that you are. I just think, hey, best available player, and this simulator, he was the best available player. Last pick, 7th round, Nick Nash, wide receiver, San Diego State. Now, look, in Senior Bowl, leading up to the Senior Bowl, he was getting a ton, and I mean a ton of talk. People were talking 3rd or 4th round. Then the pro days happened, the combine happened, and that was about all she wrote. And you haven't really heard his name being mentioned since. My thing about that is people pay more attention to the combine than they actually pay attention to film. Combine can make or break people, but film, it's almost like they forget film exists. And again, at San Diego State, I understand they're not playing against the best, or not San Diego State, excuse me, San Jose State. They're not playing against the best competition. Fair, very fair. But we still watched what we watched at the Senior Bowl. And he was playing pretty good at the Senior Bowl. And that's supposed to be the best of the best as far as seniors. And he kind of did his thing. So again, don't let combine numbers fool you. Combine numbers get you drafted or not drafted, but combine numbers aren't going to make a team for you. Going out there and playing football is going to make a team for you. Nobody cares what the combine says when they put the pads on. They want to see, can you compete? And I think this kid can compete. And the 7th round grade for him, I think, would be an absolute steal. An absolute steal. So, I looked at this mock draft and I thought about doing it differently. I thought about doing something totally different, but I didn't. And I said, you know what? We don't have one with the best player available. Um, I think it's important. Sometimes you just need to take the best player available, no matter what. And those players, if it creates competition at a position like Kelvin Banks at offensive tackle, then damn it, it just creates competition. So be it. Take the best available player. Maybe that's the attitude. Now I get it, defensive tackle, we need that, but if you can upgrade somewhere else, maybe that's the route that the Pittsburgh Steelers will go. There's plenty of teams that always go the best player available. That no matter what, other than maybe quarterback, if you have to have a quarterback, but everywhere else, they just, hey, the best player available that's on our board, that's who we're going with. Who's next on the board? That's who we're going with. So I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that. There'll be a lot of people out there that disagree with this mock draft. And I'm not saying that you're wrong, but best player available is usually a pretty good way to go. And again, if you're creating competition at a position, so be it. Let the best man win. That's what this is all about anyway, isn't it? So we want the best player to play. We don't care who it is. We just want you to play well for the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. So let's go to the poll. Poll 4. Which prospect do you think would make the biggest impact on the Steelers roster next season? In this draft, this mock draft that we did. A, Kelvin Banks. B, Deion Walker. C, DJ Giddens. D, Kyle McCord. E, Jordan Hancock. Or F, Nick Nash. Who do you believe would make the biggest impact on the Steelers roster next season? This is an interesting one. Really interesting one. Again, remember, if you were to pick D, make sure you put D4 so we know exactly what poll that you're answering in the comment section. So, look, the Steelers, obviously, we got some decisions to make, man. People are panicking now as far as quarterback. It seems that maybe even the front office is starting to put down the law as far as, look, Aaron Rodgers, we need an answer by this date. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is really going to reciprocate to that. And maybe it's just time the Steelers just say, okay, great, we're moving on. But I've said two things all along. Well, not one thing, two things all along. One, if the Steelers allow Aaron Rodgers to come in after minicamp, after OTAs, they're not serious about winning. That much I know. And two, if Aaron Rodgers comes in and signs after the draft, he was waiting to see if the Steelers were going to trade George Pickens, because there's no way in the world that Aaron Rodgers comes if Pickens and DK Metcalf are not there. So that's what I believe all this hullabaloo is about. They're waiting he's waiting for Pickens to see if he gets traded. If he doesn't, he'll sign. If he does, he won't. I think it literally comes down to that. Whether we like that or not, it is what it is. We don't have to have a quarterback right this second. I don't think people should be panicked. But as soon as it's time, and it's coming up pretty quickly, Rodgers is going to have to make a decision, and the Steelers are going to have to hold a line and say, you have this date. If you don't, thank you very much. We appreciate your time, but we got to move on. That's all. So appreciate everybody, man. Thank you guys as always. That's all I got for you today. Again, make sure you like, follow, continue to subscribe. Always get in that comment section. We love the back and forth between you and I and what you guys think. Let us know what you like, you dislike. Remember to hit that notification bell as well, just so you know when Steelers Almighty content comes out, man. Thank you guys again. We appreciate you, love you, and aloha.